Now, I would like to move on to invite the next speaker, Professor Dr. Muhammad Shukri Saleh, also from USM. He is an honorary professor at the Center for Islamic Development Management Studies, or ISDEM, USM. He is also the adjunct professor at University Sultan Sharif Ali, or UNISA, Brunei, adjunct professor at HUE University in Malaysia. And his specialization is Islamic-based development, Islamic development management, and Islamic political economy. So with that, I call upon Prof. Dr. Muhammad Shukri Saleh to begin his discussion. Silakan.
Terima kasih Prof. Hassan. Auzubillahiminasyaitonirrajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin. Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billahil aliyyil azim. Astaghfirullahalazim, astaghfirullahalazim, astaghfirullahalazim. Yang saya kasihi Prof. Datuk Umar, semua peserta, ahli panel dan kawan-kawan semua. I was given quite a broad topic, yeah. I was given to talk about Islamic approach. So this is very broad, but then I tend to need to zoom in to two things. It's a very simple objective that I have. Number one is to investigate the approach that has been adopted in the budget 2022. And then secondly, to look into the positions of the Islamic approach in the budget 2020. Yeah. So let me share my PowerPoint. Right. Boleh nampak tak, Prof?
Yeah, nampak.
Nampak ya.
You can put it on slideshow. Okay, got it.
Right. Okay. So actually the budget 2022 and Islamic approach is my own topic that I've created in order to achieve the two objectives. Yeah, to look into, to investigate into the approach of the Islamic of the budget 2022, and also to look the position of the Islamic approach in the budget. So the objective is very simple, and then one thing when we talk about the approach, one thing which is quite interesting to me is the bottom-up approach lah. Paling kurang there are 7 indicators that we can conclude that the budget 2022 is actually adopting a bottom-up approach. Yeah. Even though there is no clear and exact mentions of the approach in the budget, but I think we can conclude that actually they are using to some extent what we can call the bottom-up approach. For instance, number 1, there were series of on-the-ground engagement across various states in Malaysia. So they turun ke Padang and then have discussions with various focus groups, and then having meetings and consultation. And at least there were about a total of 30 focus groups they have met. And then apart from that, they also analyzed about, in fact, over 1,100 memorandums, which I believe that has been given or sent by macam-macam various parties. And then number 4, there are also 80 engagement with the governments and opposition political leaders to discuss about the budget, and then it eventually come up dengan publication of a pre-budget statement, and then lepas itu ada lagi publication of 4 public consultation papers, and then lastly dia ada consideration of nearly 50,000 proposals received via budget 2022 portals. So saya rasa ini satu perkara yang menunjukkan bahawa sangat bersifat bottom up approach rather than a top down approach, as opposed to the top down approach. But then the question is now, kalau kita tengok ada tak Islamic approach dalam the budget ini? So unfortunately the answer is much to be desired lah. even though there are Islamic elements, probably one can ask, are not there any Islamic elements in the budget? Yes, there are. Yes, there are. But we cannot consider with a few elements, Islamic elements in the budget, we cannot conclude that actually the budget is adopting the Islamic approach. One also may probably stress more by saying that probably there are a few things that probably we can call it Islamic or sebagai Islamic elements. So for instance, there are two verses, quotations of Quranic verses, misalnya, when the Menteri talk about the orphans, anak yatim dan sebagainya, so he quoted Al-Baqarah 20 verse 20. And then at the end of the presentations of the budget, dalam conclusion itu, the Menteri kata we have to submit to Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala, but after a very serious efforts. Then dia put Kalam 22. So nampak ada Islamic elements to be in that. And apart from that also, if you go to the core of the budget itself, so for instance, the theme is Keluarga Malaysia, Makmur Sejahtera, and that the pillars is strengthening recovery, building resilience, and also driving reforms. And focus also rakyat's well-being, resilient businesses, prosperous and sustainable economy. Values lagi juga nampaknya tidak bertentangan, is not in contradictory daripada Islamic punya elements, inclusivity, togetherness, and gratitude. So the core of the budget itself seems to be not in the contradictions with the Islamic punya doctrines lah. And one also may ask that there are a process of redistribution. Redistribution, for instance, there are a lot of monetary assistance, perks, tax reduction, tax initiative, and so forth. All these are probably not in contradiction with the Islamic teachings. And then moreover, you can see that there are at least 4 Islamic things that have been initiated in the budget 2020-22. Misalnya ada halal, they allocated 25 million ringgit for that via Halal Development Corporation untuk halal product digital brandings and halal product marketability programs, all that. So ada itu, aspek itu, dan halal of course is an Islamic injunctions. Yang kedua ialah wakaf. 10 million is allocated for wakaf, especially for wakaf SME halal, agriculture wakaf, and also disaster wakaf initiative. Number 3, dia juga ada budget 1.5 billion given to JAKIM to uphold the pillar of Islam, sama ada in the management and development Islamic affairs, ataupun the assistance given to religious school, especially the development of religious school in Labuan, and also monetary assistance to Takmir, Imam, Bilal, Syahr, all the religious workers in the country. Then number 4 ada allocation for Islamic educational institution. Also we are JAKIM, ada 140 million ringgit for that. Termasuk untuk bagi kepada tahfiz schools, rakyat religious schools, pondok religious schools, and so forth. So kalau kita tengok sini, on the right, we can see that the core of the budget itself seems to be quite Islamic, and also there are elements of Islamic in the budget. But the question is why I came to a decision that actually the budget is not adopting an Islamic approach. This is the reasons. Number 1, definitely and very clearly that there is no mentions of any approach in the budget, no mention whatever tadi tak sebut itu, and also definitely it is not based on Islamic framework. When we talk about Islamic framework, probably now the advocates of Maqasid Syariah will say that actually if you want to talk about Islamic approach, Islamic, you have to have the Islamic framework, and you have to base the budget on the Maqasid Syariah. Or you are talking about Islamic approach, one probably will request the governments to have a Maqasid Al-Quran, for instance. It's quite interesting now. There are a lot of people talking about Islamic Sharia, But the advocates of some of the advocates of Maqasid Syariah now is trying to move on, not only to Maqasid Syariah but also to Maqasid Al-Quran. And even there are scholars also who are now talking about Maqasid Al-Akhlaq, yeah, Al-Akhlaq. So Al-Quran definitely it deals with everything in there, Syariah, peraturan, regulations. But then Quran and Syariah without akhlaq, it is also not adequate. So also, if we were to conclude that the budget is using an Islamic approach, so there must be a mention of Islamic principle in that, which is not kita tak jumpa dalam itu. Then we talk about Islamic principles, and probably we have to talk about the modes of the budget, yeah, the acuan of the budget, and it has to be based on the tasawwur, the Islamic worldview, and also probably the epistemology of the budget, and the actors with the development actors, the time scale, the framework, the methodology, the means, and also the ultimate aims of the budget. Right? Yeah, this is we cannot find all this in the budget. That's why I came to a conclusion that actually budget 2022 is not using an Islamic approach, but rather than that, from our observation, even there was shown just now that they don't have any clear mentions of any approach used in the budget. But from our observation, we can sense that actually they are using Western ethnocentric. So they are going around in that. Using the conventional economic cycle, for instance, yeah, they're trying to inject aids and financial assistance into the economy of the state, of the country, so that they can provide the purchasing power, or at least to increase the purchasing power of the people, and then by purchasing power, then there'll be a demand for that, and there'll be after demand, there'll be the increase of productivity. And in order to increase the productivity, definitely you have to have the employment, and then later on the employers will get the wages, and then also the demand and so on. Then this is very conventional economic cycle that is adopting in the budget. So now the conclusion is that we can see that there are Islamic elements in the budget. But these Islamic elements, seems to be positioned within the Western ethnocentric framework. I was saying just now that at least there are 4 Islamic elements that are upholding pillars of Islam, Islamic educational institution, wakaf, halal, and that. But all these are packaged in the Western ethnocentric economic paradigms. So it's not the framework is the Western ethnocentric economic thinking, and then the elements, the Islamic element is in there. So I think probably one will ask, so what is the nasib, the fate of the Islamic approach within the budget?
Probably 5 minutes, Prof. Silakan.
All right, okay. Kita tak putus asa, and actually we still have the opportunity to do that, inshallah. Not in the whole budget, but at a micro level of it, the Islamic approach for the Islamic elements. Say for instance, the halal, the schools, the management and all that, we can always Islamize it, or we can always use the Islamic approach to deal with all the Islamic elements in the budget. So meaning that Islamic approach means that which is based on the Maqasid Al-Quran, Islamic framework, on the Maqasid Sharia, probably the Islamic principles. We have to redefine the modes of the Islamic elements that we're going to implement. The actors also, development actors, rather than the economic actors per se. Probably we will be talking about the Hamba Allah and also the Khalifah Allah, the time scale, instead of looking the budget for just 1 year, 2022. Probably we'll be talking about our perjanjian dengan Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala as a hamba Allah and also Khalifah Allah during kita punya alam roh, and then dunia ini is just a place for us to prove to Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala that actually we submit to the promise that we have done masa kita punya alam roh, and definitely the reward, the ultimate reward will be in the akhirah. So we have to be talking about that. The framework also, we have to be based on the fardu ain, fiqh, tauhid, and tauhid, fiqh, and also tasawuf. The methodology should be ibadah, so that every deed that we are doing will be considered by Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala as worship to Allah, inshallah. And the means is the natural resources. Apa ni kita punya means yang Allah created purposely for us to make it, to use it sebagai alat untuk membuktikan perhambaan dan juga kekhalifahan kita. And definitely the ultimate aim, we have to discuss about the ultimate aim, which is mardatillah. Kita semua ini cuba mencari redha Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala, so that we'll have the al-falah, ya, hasanah fi dunya wa hasanah fil akhirah. So even though Islamic elements within the whole budget of the Western ethnocentric paradigms, but still we still have the opportunity, and hopefully that those who are involved in implementing the Islamic elements, especially in the four things that I've mentioned just now, will use the Islamic approach to that. So as a conclusion, we can see that actually budget 2020 is not using the Islamic approach, but then there is still an opportunity to use the Islamic approach when dealing with the Islamic elements in the budget. Right. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.